thanks very much for coming. Woo. You're here, and I'm not on my own with like a packet of crisps. So look, thank you for coming down. I don't want to say much except for it's really good to see you. I'm grateful to you all in ways you don't imagine. So thank you for being here. It's a dark, smelly, damp cellar. And I'm a microphone dying on my arse. It's but look, I just want to hand over to Somerset's leading comedian. Please welcome Richard Herring.
There we go. Hello, it's very nice to be here. Well, isn't it amazing to be here? It's 39 years the Oxford Review Workshop began. I was in the first year of people who did that. I really was coming here to pay tribute to the man who started the Oxford Review Workshop, who sadly cannot be here because he is now dead. So, it's quite a good excuse. But, without him, none of this would have happened. It's Tony Brennan, of course, who started.
He's dead.
Yes.
Fucking hell. Sorry, I didn't know that.
Sorry, you died, Martin.
Shit, why is everyone looking at me? Did everyone
wonder why
know?
I wasn't here. It was very, very rude of him not to turn up. But I think it's, we did have his funeral just before lockdown, and it was kind of amazing to see all the people in his life, all the different aspects of his life coming together. He did comedy, obviously, and started so many people's careers through this. He was a diplomat. He brought cricket to the Czech Republic. He's not the greatest comedian. He's not the greatest diplomat. He's not the greatest cricketer, but he's the best comedian cricketing. And also, he was. I've got to say this was worth saying when I started this out. He was a Morris dancer. He was a quarter blue at Tiddlybanks, and he introduced cricket to the Czech Republic. So he had this kind of, even without the comedy, he had quite an amazing comedy life. But it was such a big deal, I think, for us to have that fortnightly club when we came to Oxford, and obviously I think we were sort of very lucky in the people who were there. It's where I couldn't go for a few weeks because they had history mods at the end of the first term, which was very mean of them. I don't think that was even true of your year, was it?
We were different the next year.
We were the last year, so I had exams at the end of term, so I thought I'm going to get chucked out of university, so I better do some work, which is the only time I did any work. And so I missed Stu every time. I saw him, the one time I did it, I saw him sitting in the Wimpy on his way to the Susan Vega concert. We kept on missing each other, but we met at the Oxford Review Christmas party. And Tony was just so supportive. My first thing I did at the Oxford Review Workshop was a sketch called My Penis Can Sing, which could have been the end of my career.
Do it!
I'll do a little bit of it for you now. I've had a secret for many years now. I've never dared expose. You've seen those people on that, like, you can sing through their nose. Well, I do something different. I've practiced it for years. The audiences may shut their eyes, they'll never close their ears. You see that? My penis can sing. Yes, I did that as my audition for the Oxford Review. And Tony always leaping over the table saying, "You must come to the Oxford Review." So he was incredibly supportive. But I wouldn't have probably met Stuart and worked with Stuart if it wasn't for that. But also, people would be looking around seeing here where Armando was doing amazing stuff there. I think as well, I realised that at the funeral that you and Tony had done a debate of the Oxford Union together, and you were on opposing sides, I think, in the debate.
Who is the funniest?
Yes.
Scotland.
Even then, that was when you met with someone from the BBC.
So, Andy Cameron, who's a Scottish comedian, was on my team, but he also worked for Radio Scotland, and he passed my name on, and I got a show.
Yeah. So Tony was always there. I think it was such an amazing thing because when you look back, it was this tiny little room. It's way smaller than this. In your memory, it's big, right? But it seated 40 people, and we were excited that we had to do 2 shows because it's thought we were a success. We sold 80 tickets for 50p each. people sitting on the stairs. You know, I remember it being massive, and it was. I saw also Michael Paynon's comic groups. Him and Terry Jones are in that same little tiny room. But it's sort of. I always thought there was something in this. You know, we were all downstairs in the cellar, and up above us was Michael Gove and Boris Johnson. And we really should have been making explosive, not doing it. So or at least if the people in the cellar have been charged with running the country, we couldn't have done it any worse. We should maybe have put the other way around. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's I don't know how long, I don't know if it's stopped, the Oxford Workshop, I presume it has, but I don't know how long it lasted for, but it was you know, obviously Al and people came up the next year, and people like Sally Phillips, and you know, there's many names, and I think especially with Oxford comedy, it wasn't a big deal really. You know, I think we were the first people to really get any notice since Rowan Atkinson, you know, which was like a generation before, and Cambridge was always up there. And so I think this, you know, Tony having this idea of just saying let's do something where people can come and just try stuff out, and it was quite. You know, it wasn't like let's do. Well, most people did do sketches, but he was taking the stand-up route really, saying he was looking at clubs and saying we should be doing a club and we should be trying stuff out. And I think to have 3 years of just being in that cellar, doing different material every 2 weeks, it was just such an amazing thing to do. So you know, I think we have to give a cheers to Tony Brennan, who's done. You know, had an amazing life, but thank you very much to him, Tony. I've never directly to his face. Since he's died, I've been very grateful. And, you know, it's lovely to see. It's lovely to see that everyone's turned up as well. To you know, as Paul said, it could have just been him, which would have been funny. And we should have maybe all turned up at 9 o'clock.
I'm well aware this is the best thing I've ever done in the comedy cellar.
But you know, I think that affection for this at this time, and I just think like it's 39 years since we did that, and all those things we did seemed so important at the time, and some of them were and some of them weren't. But then it was such an intense experience. I remember so much about that 3-year period. And the other, I don't know if I remember much about the other 35 years after it. So it's you know, it's great that everyone stayed so loyal to it, and it's great to see you all. So let's go and have a great time and enjoy ourselves, and in memory of Tony, but also of our younger selves, hopeful younger selves, our lives will turn out better than this.